So actually we'll start now because it's 5 past. Yeah, so very, very good to have you all here with us tonight, with us not geographically, but with us participating in meditation night, in this activity, this important activity. And yeah, as I mentioned, there's many people who are on the meditation challenge to meditate 5 times a week for 6 weeks and discover what effect that has, how that sort of changes your mind. So welcome to all of you. Big sort of encouragement to all of you for getting here and in this stage, the start of your challenge. And welcome, of course, to anyone who's come here for the first time tonight. Very good to have you with us. Very happy to help try and get you started with meditation. And the evening's called Coming Home to Who You Really Are. There's all sorts of sort of quite particular sort of tradition of with the metaphor of the home, the house, actually in Buddhism. Perhaps I'll say a little bit about that shortly. But essentially what the evening's about, it's about awareness. It's about self-awareness. So I'm going to talk a bit about that, but obviously talking about it is not it. So if, say, for right now, you just start to notice the sensations of the body, can you do that? Just turning your attention to the sensations in the body. And just notice how, as you're doing that, as well as being aware of the sensations of the body, you're also aware of being aware of the sensations of the body. There's this reflexive element to our consciousness, self-reflexive consciousness. We can be physically aware right now of the sensations of the body, and in doing so we become aware of being aware. So that is it's quite a marvel. It's a bit of a miracle. You could say it is the sovereign achievement of evolution. It's something that we live with daily, but we sort of overlook the significance of it, profound significance of it. So that's what I want us to look at. But my main point, actually, the main point I want to go into is that in order to develop this, in order to develop self-awareness, what we need to do is perhaps the key element that we need is continuity of practice. Because that moment that we just noticed of self-awareness, wonderful as it is, it's not sort of complete. It's not fully self-awareness yet because of the nature of what self really is. So self. So I was talking about some of this on Saturday, actually, in the challenge, but I sort of skipped over it. So I thought I'd come back to it because I probably left you a bit sort of confused as I skipped over it rather quickly. But self is the way we sort of articulate our continuity to ourselves and to others. So what I mean by that is, in our experience as human beings, we through the day, through our lives, we have a whole series of activities, don't we? A whole series of experiences. But what we do with that is we run this thread through them of continuity, and we call it me. That's me. That's my life. So that's what self is. So if we only notice self, if we're only self-aware in a moment, we haven't fully become aware of the nature of self. Self actually is a continuity. So it might sound rather challenging, but in a way we need to be aware. In order to be self-aware, we need to be aware all the time. I'll unpack this a little bit, but what I'll say to start off with is if we do become aware, if we sort of illumine self, the experience of self in awareness, what we start to notice is that actually it's not a sort of monotone continuity. there's actually sort of different selves that sort of, you could even say sort of vie for supremacy through the day. That's what you start to notice if you develop self-awareness. So if we don't develop self-awareness, we just assume that there is one self. That's the kind of conviction of self, that I am just one self. But if we develop self-awareness, if we illumine our experience, just as we were earlier, with awareness, we start to see that that's not the case. This means that if we just develop awareness, sort of 9 till 5, if you see what I mean, part-time self-awareness, we become aware of the self that goes to work, the 9 till 5 self, which is a particular self, isn't it? We don't become aware of other things that sort of don't quite fit in with that self, that notion of who we are. Yeah, so in this way, can you see how actually self-awareness, to be self-aware, requires continuity? So that's what we're starting to develop if we develop a regular meditation practice. Really, really important thing to do, or kind of a significant thing to do to develop a regular meditation practice. So yeah, I want to say a bit more about the kind of about this. So yeah, I'm talking about self as a kind of continuity. But if we change the metaphor a bit and think of self as a thing, which is not, but let's just sort of change the metaphor. Think of it. I sort of think of it as a sphere. Well, it's a bit like that sphere is kind of made up of different parts, different sort of selves, a bit like a sort of jigsaw. So you've got this kind of sphere, but it's made up of different sort of pieces, different selves. But if we sort of illumine that experience into self-awareness, what we see is, instead of a sort of coherent sphere with all the parts sort of fitting together, we see that actually they don't fit together. The pieces don't fit together, all sorts of discrepancies. Do you remember when you were a kid and you can't work out where that last piece fits, so you jam it, you know it doesn't fit there, but you kind of jam it in? That's actually, if we look at self with awareness, we start to see that the kind of pieces are sort of jammed together. It's inconsistent, there are discrepancies. The conviction of self is that it is consistent. So what the sort of momentum of self, the tendency of self wants to do is it wants to say, no, I'm consistent. There's no discrepancy here. So anything that doesn't fit in with the story we have of ourselves, what we'll do is we'll minimize it. We just sort of minimize it. So if we think of ourselves as a kind person and we've acted a bit unkindly, we just sort of slightly sort of minimize that because it doesn't quite fit in with the story. And in this way, we don't actually develop, we don't illumine our experience with self-awareness. We actually close down. So that's the sort of the conviction of self, the sort of momentum of self. It wants to sort of it wants to fit everything into its own sort of dogmatic view that I am a consistent person. So when I started meditating, I heard that sort of thing. I thought, no, it's not true. I am consistent. I know who I am, sort of thing. As you meditate, you'll start to see inconsistency. So meditation practice is an example of that. You decide, okay, I'm going to meditate, and sometimes even you've decided that, and the very next day you completely forgotten. That can happen. Or you do manage to meditate for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday the alarm goes off and there's absolutely no impulse to get up. So you don't. It's like another self that doesn't want to meditate has actually taken over, has become dominant. So it's really, really important to sort of see that this is the nature of our experience, because if we can develop that continuity, it allows us to come into relationship with that other self that doesn't want to meditate. and it can sort of negotiate us onto the cushion, so that it's not just a sort of forced dictatorship that you sort of drag other sides of yourself to the cushion, which always ends in rebellion. Yeah. So anyway, this image of a jigsaw sort of came to mind, of self as a jigsaw. If we illumine our experience with self-awareness, we start to see discrepancies. We start to see, well, part of me wants to meditate, another self doesn't. It can feel. So this is an important point. It can feel like we're going backwards. It can feel like, oh God, I am failing. I thought I could do this, but I'm not. Actually, you're not. This is progress, that you're starting to see discrepancies. You're starting to see different selves. You're starting to see there's pushes and pulls. So with self-awareness, it sort of it slows down the insistent conviction of self that I am coherent. I'll say why that's problematic, that insistent conviction, and it starts to sort of ease and open up this sphere, so that we can start to see, there are discrepancies, there are cracks. Now that is actually progress. It can feel like we're going backwards, but it's actually progress. Yeah. So what was I going to say about selves? Yeah. So these selves, the characteristics of self, are that they are habitual, and they're sort of determined from externally. They're sort of externally determined. So that's what happens when we go to work, isn't it? We go to work, and this self sort of ramps up. The kind of busy, efficient kind of, I'm rather good at this, whatever it is, just sort of ramps up. We don't need to make it happen. Actually, sometimes we feel like you do, but anyway, it's sort of automatically, just by dint of being at work, it's sort of the penny in the slot, and that self sort of habitually sort of ramps up. This is why we get distracted. The fact that it's sort of externally determined is why we get so distracted. You know, when you sort of, yesterday I decided to do something, and then I found myself doing my emails 10 minutes later, and I hadn't done the thing I'd previously done. Well, I'd been determined from outside because I was just in this unaware self. So one self kind of sort of knocking me one direction, another self kind of then knocking me in the other direction. It's a bit like life, that experience of life as a pinball in a pinball machine. You just sort of knocked externally. You've got no strength of concentration, no continuity of purpose. That is the nature of self. Because we're determined externally, we can't sort of set our own continuity of purpose. Yeah. So with self-awareness, we can see these sort of pushes and pulls in our experience. We're able to acknowledge that. So that's really, really important. And the way we do that is continuity of practice. That's what starts to illumine these differing selves, some which want to get on the cushion, some which don't. Yeah, so very, very significant. And I want to talk in a bit actually about how we can really wake up to the significance of self-awareness, so that we don't just get dispirited when we see these discrepancies. Yeah, really, really important that we know how to do that. But the other thing I wanted to say is that this ball of self, this sphere, with self-awareness, it opens up, and it's in the cracks that actually we start to discover something much, much more valuable. It's through the cracks that self wants to paper over that we start to discover our individuality. I'm just checking the time. So quick story. Again, I mentioned this on Saturday, but I skipped over it too quickly. So an example of a discrepancy for me that came to mind was when I was working in this business, and I was a busy person. That was the self that I habitually got into. I'd rush around doing all sorts of things, being busy. But the discrepancy was that actually I was avoiding doing certain things. Now, the tendency of self wanted to minimize that, just push that away. No, I'll come to them later. But I could see, no, I'm avoiding doing certain things. And that discrepancy in that crack, as I was able to sort of bring more awareness into it, so I'm talking externally, but actually that meant coming into the body and seeing what is going on here. And I discovered I was scared. I was fearful because all the things I was trying to avoid were performance management things. So that was really, really helpful. Uncomfortable to realize. It's really, really helpful. Now, it's in that crack that I discovered what was the greatest treasure that came from that job. Learning how to performance manage was something that it terrified me, but it was meaningful, and it actually changed the course of my life because through it I discovered my values, a love of helping people learn and grow. That sort of changed my life. So yeah, it's in these cracks that we sort of want to close down and sort of cover up, cover over, that we discover our individuality. And the last thing I want to say about that is that the metaphor of the house. So self in Buddhism is often talked of as a house. It's a place we go for security, isn't it? We think of a house as nice and secure. But the Buddha went forth from the house. He found that actually the house wasn't secure because the house is actually the sort of reactive self, the self that's determined outside. You know how a house, its value is determined externally. It's determined by how other people sort of see it. That's how I was being determined in that busy self. I wanted to be seen. I wanted a sense of value, and I thought if I was rushed around being busy, I would be that would give me a sense of worth. So I was sort of determined externally, and that is the problem of self. It sort of pushes us along in this habitual way. So if we take our security from outside, this sort of metaphor of the house, we're actually insecure, we're actually determined from outside. We've seen with COVID how much things can change, can't we? The only true security is in investing in individuality. If we do that, we find the deeper resources whereby we're not concerned anymore about what people think of us. We're able to engage in a different way. So that is the value of individuality. And I think now, at a time when we're stuck in our homes, we have the opportunity, the great opportunity, not to take it as a confinement, but to develop self-awareness. In that, the relative confinement becomes a liberation. If we can develop a regular meditation practice, it becomes a liberation because we can start to deepen our sense of our individuality. I've gone slightly over time, but the last thing I wanted to come back to, which I mentioned earlier, was this thing about really seeing the significance of awareness. So when we're in the practice, how can we really sort of wake up to the significance of that? So you know that moment where you've been off, distracted, and you come back, you realize you've been distracted. Very easily, we habitually go, oh, there I was again. You know, we give ourselves a slight sort of dressing down, a slight sort of, well, let's instead use that moment, see what that moment is. That moment is a moment of reflexive self-consciousness. We've suddenly gone bing, we've suddenly awoken from distraction into reflexive self-consciousness. So let's really tune into that moment when you come back, you find you've been off, tune into that moment and wonder at it. Notice how that moment is this extraordinarily rich as I say, sort of achievement of evolution, that life can become conscious of itself. We can wonder at that. That is more appropriate. If we can do that every time we go off, then we've done something in our meditation. Yeah. So even if we just do that 3 times, we're distracted the whole sit, but we kind of wake up to the significance of that. That would be value. And then the other thing we're going to do in the practice is we're going to just really take this perspective of continuity. Yeah. So think in terms of continuity of practice, not just this one practice. So again, the metaphor of an adventure. It's a bit like the continuity of the practice is, it gives you perspectives. It sort of is self-awareness in a certain way. It's a bit like there's this aspect of self-awareness, which is you just sort of create a bigger container in which you experience things. So if you can think in terms of this bigger, longer perspective of a continuity of meditation, this one meditation, if it goes badly, great. Become aware of that. We can learn something from that. Yeah, so let's sort of try and take this perspective of a longer term. And the last thing, the third thing we're going to do is we're just going to use the breath to kind of soothe and calm the habitual mind. Yeah. Great. So if you'd like to get into your meditation posture, then I'll start to lead us through the practice. Great. So as you're settling down, just noticing the sensations of the body. You might even, just as you're doing that, tune up to the experience, the element of that which is reflexive self-consciousness. Just sort of marveling, wondering at it. So we're sort of illumining the experience with this capacity of consciousness to be reflexive. So just letting the sensations of the body illumined by this reflexive self-consciousness just sort of shimmer, flitter in our awareness. Feeling those sensations all over the body. Fluttering, momentary. And let's see if we can engage with this practice as just one practice in many, so that we can really relax into it, we can enjoy it, whether it goes well or badly in those very relative terms. Whatever happens, we can enjoy it just like an adventure. Come wind, come rain, come sun. Noticing the sort of tenor of our thoughts. Again, notice how you can illumine them in awareness. You don't need to stop them, suppress them. They can happen, but illumined in awareness. In this way, the whole insistent momentum of habitual self can slow up. And our mood, becoming aware of the sort of colour of your mind, colouring. Just breathing with that, breathing into that. So welcoming it in, notice how you can be subtly or habitually sort of clenching, habitually pushing certain things out of awareness. That might be a habit that gets sort of activated by sitting down to meditate even. Certain things that we want to edit out. So just seeing if you can let them be there, relax those, any tensions. Let the whole colourful array be present in our experience. A whole horde of cells, if you like. And just breathing with them. And in this way, just tuning into the quality of the breath that's soothing and calming. Just seeing if we can calm the habitual self. With all its insistent momentum to convince us of its existence, its coherence. Just calming that the more we can come into experience, the less we depend on stories of self. Soothing and calming the habitual, the habits of mind with the breath. In this way, illumining experience, allowing in discrepancy and contradiction. And then we're just going to encourage a continuity of attention by saying one after the out-breath. Our attention is on the breath, not saying one. As soon as we said one, we're back with the breath. And let's take on, if we find ourselves off distracted, use that moment to wake up to the significance of reflexive self-consciousness. Wonder at it. That moment is a moment of meditation success, not a moment to chastise ourselves. If you do find yourself chastising yourself, that's fine. Just illumine that with awareness. There we are, a habit. That's really good to become aware of. Just encouraging continuity of attention, the sensations of breathing by counting one after the out-breath, then 2, up to 10 if you like. Continuity is the essence of self-awareness. And when you find yourself off, brilliant, take that, awaken to the moment of reflexive self-consciousness. And in the second stage, say one just before the in-breath. Just to encourage continuity of attention, of awareness. Staying relaxed, not forcing it, like the jigsaw pieces. Allowing things into awareness, soothing the habitual mind with the breath. And when you find yourself distracted, brilliant. Actually, you've just woken up. The numbers just to encourage continuity of awareness of the sensations of breathing. And as we enter into the third stage, just relaxing and checking you're in touch with that bigger perspective of the journey, the adventure. Doesn't matter what you achieve. This is just one day in a walk of 100 miles. Keeping that sense of humor, sense of perspective. Relaxing and seeing what you can become aware of. And then engaging your attention in the sensations of breathing. Dropping the numbers this time. Just see if you can find a sense of enjoyment in attending to the sensations of breathing. Somewhere, subtle sense of pleasure or enjoyment. Just rest in that. Even if it's just the sort of gentleness of the breath or the warmth of the hands even. Ideally in the breath though. Open to the adventure of becoming aware of the mind. Just encouraging a continuity of awareness. To deepen self-awareness. If you feel you're holding it together in some way, just see if you can see what that's about with kindness, bringing kindness to that habit. Not necessarily thinking about it, just being aware of it, breathing with it. And seeing if you can find an even more subtle experience of the breath in these last few minutes. the whole of you wholly attending to this subtle experience of the sensations of breathing. And now just dropping any effort that you're making, sitting absolutely still. And just see what happens in the mind. Allow the momentum of your efforts to fruit under their own steam. Broadening your awareness out to the body and the room, everyone else we're sharing the evening with. And when you're ready, opening your eyes. Right, so I forgot to say earlier, but now we've got a chance for any questions, or if you want to comment on your experience of meditation. And you can just do that, you probably know this, in the chat box. So if you just take a moment and write in any questions, any thoughts, anything that's been sparked off by this topic and the meditation.
So I could say that I noticed at the beginning when you invited us to, how you put it, but to see if we could contact reflexive self-awareness.
Oh yeah.
And so I said, gosh, I'm aware. And it just felt quite wonderful. There was a real pleasure to that.
Oh, yeah.
It's such an ordinary idea, isn't it?
Yeah.
Being aware of the actual experience was worth noticing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you were surprised by the richness of the experience.
Yeah.
Pleasurable. And it was pleasurable. Yeah, wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, great. Thanks for the introduction.
Nicola says, so relaxed. Thank you, she says.
Oh, good. That's good to hear, Nicola. Great, well done.
There's a question from Sam. What do you think is inside the sphere of self?
Oh, yeah. Good question. Yeah, it's a metaphor. There isn't really a sphere, but what is individuality? I suppose the point is that we habitually sort of inhabit certain selves, but they're kind of not quite us. I was giving an example of being busy. And I had to sort of keep that up. But it was basically, these sort of selves are a kind of reward scheme, actually. I've realized we sort of do them to sort of get something back, but they also confine us, cover over who we really are. So if we can sort of allow that to open up, we go deeper into our values. That's one way of putting it. What's really important to us. That my example was that performance management was just a sort of, it was a way of giving expression to what's most important to me. So that's what we kind of go deeper into. In a certain way, you can't. Yeah, we're just giving it this term individuality, but it's an experience. It's to be discovered in experience. I could talk about it. I could give it a sort of a name, but actually it's to be discovered in experience, and that experience is that it's where we find our sort of deeper resources in order to instead of be determined externally, actually sort of live from our center. So it's in a way, a certain way. I don't want to say too much more about it than individuality, because it's an invitation to go deeper into our experience and see what we discover, see who we are, come home to who we really are. Yeah. So I hope that's not too roundabout, Sam. I hope that's sort of helpful. But I particularly want to sort of say it's an experience, something to discover in experience.
So Selena says, thank you for mentioning not berating yourself for following distracting thoughts.
Yeah. It's so easy to do, isn't it? And the thing about our thoughts is they can seem insignificant. You know, nobody knows about them. In the privacy of your own mind, you can say all sorts of things to yourself. Nobody knows about it. It's very, very easy to dismiss that as irrelevant. It's not irrelevant. It might be having a bigger effect on our lives and therefore other people than some of the things that we think are really terrible that we do.
Well, Sam says an adventure. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, that's a really good way of thinking about it. Yeah.
Jeanette, I've had a very busy and frantic week at work.
Oh, yeah.
And I appreciate you sharing about your time at your job and your fears. It's got me thinking.
Oh, good, great. That's good to hear. Thanks, Jeanette. Yeah, well done for making it just in the context of a busy week. Great. So any more? Sometimes what happens is you stop the questions and then something really interesting bubbles up. Oh, somebody actually signaling to me.
Sanchez says, I guess I'm trying not to worry about keeping constantly wondering or finding coming back to the breath effortful.
Yeah. Just read that again, would you, Smidragesha?
I guess I'm trying not to worry about keeping constantly wondering or finding coming back to the breath effortful.
Yeah. That's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, you saying that it's Sancha, isn't it? So, yeah, is sort of bringing it into awareness. This is the value of meditating with others, coming to classes, that actually just by articulating our experience, we become self-aware of it. So there's this, you can easily think that you're trying to get it all right in meditation. That's not what we're trying to do. In actual fact, if you did get it all right in that sort of achievement sort of way, you got it wrong. That's probably not a very helpful way of putting it, but it's to say that's not really what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is become more aware. So you sort of noticing that you're becoming aware of a particular habit, to worry about sort of getting it right. That is really good. That's a sort of a success. Yeah. So yeah, we're going to be in the coming weeks kind of talking about how to work with our habits. But I don't know if it was helpful just to sort of notice that and calm it. You can just use the breath just to calm it. It's a whole battery of approaches to responding creatively to the habits of self that kind of come up that we're going to be exploring. Yeah, but at this stage, it's just really good that you're aware of it, and then not getting too, as you say, not getting too effortful, not kind of trying to achieve something. Just, it's enough just to be here on the journey together, on the adventure together, becoming aware of what's going on in our minds. Well done. That is what we're trying to do. That is enough. If we keep doing that, it's going to change our lives.
Craig has written, thought whack-a-mole rather than a stream of thought / emotion / consciousness we become aware of.
A thought whack-a-mole. That's out of my vocabulary. What is a thought whack-a-mole? Oh, I see. Whack-a-mole. I'm with you. I was thinking of guacamole. We had guacamole last night, but that was a red herring. Yeah, that's right. Just would you read it again, Smudjagosha?
Thought whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
Rather than a stream of thought / emotion / consciousness we become aware of.
Yeah. That's right. Very easily. We're just trying to get it right, aren't we? We're actually sort of in a habit. We're meditating in a habit of kind of slightly sort of editing out our experience. That thought shouldn't be happening, so let's just whack it. That's really, really good to bring that into awareness. That is what's actually happening. We can start to, by bringing it into awareness, it sort of slows, it eases the insistence of that habit. And we can just be aware of thoughts going on. We can learn to sort of do that. It can seem infuriating. We just want to get rid of them. But actually, we're doing something really, really significant if we manage to do that, not just once, but continuously. Great, thanks. Well, just before we finish, because we're going to stop and clap actually for the NHS. I know it's a contentious issue. We're doing it more just to support other people to be aware and conscious of how we can get, how we can take those little efforts to reduce the chance of infection, and therefore, by reducing the chance of infection, have a knock-on effect on the NHS workload. So, yeah, but before we go, thanks very much for coming tonight. It's great to have you all here with us. Do come along if you're on the challenge on on Saturday first, and then if you're not on the challenge, or if you are, come along on Monday. We've got a Monday morning meditation that runs from 8 through to 5 to 9. And the last thing we do, these classes that we do, in fact, all our Buddhism meditation classes are given freely. We don't want money to stand in the way of people benefiting from what we have tremendously benefited from. We want to help and support you to develop self-awareness. So that's what we do. We make these classes freely available. And we're able to do that because people appreciate them and give, they contribute. So if you appreciated the class, then please do consider giving. So Samudra Ghosha is going to, he's already put the, what's it called?
Link.
The link, thank you, in the chat box. So just go to that and give as much or as little as you feel moved to do. Anything that you give supports us to help more people. Great. So very nice to have you, lovely to have you here, and see you again next week.